All right, guys, I think everyone's here. So today we are going to go over the points of performance on how to perform a squat. I'm going to go over front squat and back squat variations because really nothing changes. I'll probably also do dumbbell and kettlebell squat too, just for you guys who don't have barbells at home. Points of performance for the squat itself are not going to change. The setup is going to be the same with regards to foot position, knee position, hip position, and rib cage position. The only thing that's going to change is bar placement. So whether the bar is going to be in the front for a front squat or if the bar is going to be in the back for a back squat. If we're holding a dumbbell, it could be held in the front. Same thing with a kettlebell. Okay, so let me just grab my 15 and a kettlebell here. So before I start, I do want to go over some of the key drills that I like to give in preparation for the back squat. So one is we're going to floss our hamstrings. Okay, how do we do that? You're going to keep your feet right underneath your hips, so we don't want to be wide. Okay, and all I'm going to do is take the tips of my fingers and put them down onto the tips of my toes, and I'm just going to squat down. And then I'm going to floss or stretch my hamstrings. Okay, so if I show you from the side, it's just going to look like this. I'm going to come down into my child's squat and then shoot my derriere up, and then down, and then up, down, and then up. Okay. So again, about 10 revolutions, 10 reps, however you want to look at it. We also need to have good calf mobility when we squat as well. So there's a couple different variations. If you do not have a weight plate, it doesn't matter, but ideally this should be done with a weight plate. So the plate is going to go right on the front half of my foot. Okay, so my heel is on the ground. We don't want to be like this. And then all I'm going to do is drive my knee down into my foot while I drive my knee over my second toe. And then I'll come back. Drive down, come back up. So what we're looking for is if you stretch the calf, does the heel come up? Because we don't want that happening, okay? If you don't have a plate, don't worry about it. You can still do it without the plate. So same thing. Foot's going to go in front of you. Make sure you're at a 90-degree angle. Push down slightly into the ground as I drive my knee over my second toe. And then back. Forward, back. Switch to the other side. Forward, and then back. Forward, and then back. So if I show a front version, you'll see which way my knee is tracking. Okay, so we're not out here, and we're not doing this. Okay, we're just driving our knee right down into the second toe. Okay. Another stretch that I like to do, which is really going to help to open up the hips, is shin box or hip 90-90. It all depends on who's talking about that stretch that day. Okay. So again, if you think about it, your hips and knees are at 90 degrees. Okay. So one is you can just sit in this position. Sometimes people find, especially males, find this position really uncomfortable, especially for the hip that's going into internal rotation. So there's a couple different things you can do. One is I like to just kind of lean forward and stretch. And then you can switch, lean forward, stretch, okay? And again, you're looking for those tight spots. Something else I like to do is just literally digging down with my feet, tightening my core, and then rotating to the other side. So I'm digging down with my feet, core is nice and tight, and I just rotate back and forth. Okay. And then last but not least, if you are somebody who has a hard time activating their glute, you can do shin box, where now you're coming up onto your shins and you're squeezing your butt. Okay, so now you're going to go back, hinge at the hip, hinge at the hip, hinge at the hip, come up, and then squeeze the butt to come all the way up. So let me show you from the side. I'm hinging and coming down. As I come up, I'm going to squeeze my butt. Okay, so kind of like that last portion of your deadlift. All right. I'll switch legs. Same thing. Squeezing with the butt, coming down. Squeezing with the butt, coming down. Okay. So those are my quick down and dirty mobility hacks that I like to do for getting everything ready for back squatting. That works with your calves, and it works to open up the hips, internal and external rotation. Okay. Then I like to do a couple of activation drills with my lovely bands, which are awesome. You can find these on Amazon. They usually come in a pack of 4 or 5 with different tensions. Beginners, I usually have people put the band right above the knee. If you're a little more advanced, you can put the band down by around your ankles or your feet, depending on what you're doing. A tried but true exercise I like people to do is just simply monster walks. Okay, and again, you can do this for distance. You can do it for reps, whatever you want to do. The prerequisites are your chest stays upright, so we don't want to be here. Okay, so chest stays upright, knees are pushing out against the band. So as I'm doing this, my knee doesn't ever come in. Okay, so I'm constantly pushing my knees out to the side. And I stay down in that little quarter squat position. Okay, I don't start to stand up and just walk side to side. I've seen that a couple times. Okay, not really activating your glutes. Okay, another thing I like to do, you're in that same position, slight bend in the knee, lift up the other leg, and you do a clamshell. The foot you're standing on should be a tripod foot. So you want weight under the ball of your big toe, ball of your little toe, and your heel, evenly connected to the ground. And again, I typically have people do 10. And again, if you can watch me from the side, I'm still in that little quarter squat position. And my chest is still upright, okay? After that, another one I like to do, same thing, stand on that foot, tripod, slight bend in the knee, and then you're scooping out to the side with your hip. Okay, so again, about 10 reps on each hip. This really helps to get the glutes activated, your glute med, otherwise known as your side butt, quads, hammies, you name it, okay? Now, there's a couple other ones, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty. So this is more for you people who, when you squat, your knees come in or your feet come in, okay? You're going to take your feet around the band, and instead of allowing your feet to pronate, which is how I am right now, you're going to supinate or take your feet out to the side. So you're going to come in and pronate, supinate, pronate, supinate. This is all happening from your ankle joint, not your hips and knees doing this, okay? So my knees are completely straight, okay? And I'm just going in and out with my feet. So when I'm in the supinated position, I actually have a nice arch. When I'm in the pronated position, I lose my arch. We don't want to be in the pronated position, okay? Because that means we're going to lose our arch. Lose our arch, we lose our stability, okay? Another variation of that, same thing, get in a quarter squat position, and now you're going to do one foot at a time. You're going to supinate, pronate, supinate, pronate. Again, this is pretty much happening from the foot. Okay, if you can watch my feet, my foot's going down into supination and then pronation. Supination, pronation. Okay, so those are my warm-up drills for squatting. Feel free to add them into your activation for the days you're going to back squat, front squat, overhead squat. Now, let's go into squatting basics. So I'm just going to use my barbell. Actually, no, I'll just do an air squat first. Okay, so we're going to start with not our feet underneath our hips because we're not deadlifting. Okay, our feet are going to be about shoulder width apart, slightly toed out. Okay, so depending on how much hip mobility you have will kind of determine how much you toe out. Okay, we want a tripod foot, so that means weight under the ball of the big toe, ball of the little toe, and heel. All three of those points should be evenly distributed as we are going down into that squat and coming up out of that squat. All right, that will also help to create our nice arch. If I lose my arch, then my knees are going to cave in, okay? And then I'm going to do all kinds of funky things when I come up out of my squat. That's the feet position. You want to think about driving your feet down into the ground, spreading the floor away from you, leveraging the floor away from you, however you want to look at it. Knees, you want your knees to come down and track out over your fifth toe, okay? If I do first toe, now I'm here, and then my feet pronate. That's not optimal, okay? The other thing is we want to avoid sending our hips back too far because this is what's going to happen. All right, this isn't a very optimal squat because now the weight's going to be too far pitched forward. All right, if I looked at you from the side and here is my barbell sticking out, it should draw a straight line down through the mid part of your foot. Okay, so if the barbell's here and we go too forward, now the barbell's going to drop down right into the front of my foot versus in the back of my, or the mid part of my foot like it should be. Okay. Another common fault I see is what happens at the rib cage and the pelvis. So sometimes you'll see people when they front squat, they'll arch and they'll stay arched as they go all the way down. Okay. If they're staying in that arched position, my ribs cannot be stacked over my pelvis. So now I've lost all core stability. Okay. We want to think about keeping the bottom of our ribs and our top of our pelvis sitting on top of each other. Okay. So we want to keep them nice and tight and stay there as you squat. We don't want this to happen. Okay. So those are the main key points. All right. If you require further, what's the word I'm looking for? Technique. Email me, text me. You're probably going to need an in-person session so that I can further see what's going on. Okay, these are just basic performance points for how to do the squat. Understand that everyone's hip anatomy is different. Femur lengths are different. Tibia lengths are different. So everyone's going to have a different type of squat setup. Okay, but those are the basic points for most people. So we're going to do a back squat first. I'm going to come into my bar backwards. So again, my feet are underneath or right outside my shoulders, sorry. I have a pronated foot, or I'm sorry, supinated foot. I'm not pronated, okay? Bar is on the meaty part of my neck, not on the bone that's sticking out back there, okay? And all I'm going to do is the same thing that we talked about. Keep our arch, drive down, make sure our knees are over our fifth toe, and my chest stays nice and upright, okay? Let me show you one from the side. So same thing, I have my ribs stacked over top of my pelvis. I stay there. As I drop down, I use my full foot to drive the bar back up, okay? I'll show you another front view. I have my feet where they need to be, my tripod foot. Knees go over fifth toe. Ribs are pulled over top of my pelvis. Okay. As I'm driving back up, I'm pushing through my full foot and using my glutes. Okay. Back squat. Next, we will do front squat. So with front squatting, the bar is in the front of us. Okay. So that means it's going to sit right on our shoulders. So if I let go of my front squat, or I'm sorry, I let go of my barbell, I should still be in that front squat position. Okay. So same thing, feet just outside the shoulders, slightly toed out. I have my arch, I have my tripod foot. I held my elbows up. My elbows should stay about perpendicular to the floor if they can. Okay. Knees are going out over fifth toe. And ribs are still stacked over pelvis. Let me show you a side view. Nothing changes with my feet. Okay. Here's me not ready. Here's me ready. Ribs are stacked over pelvis. Driving down, elbows stay up pretty high, and then I push through my full foot. That is front squat. Now, if you do not have a barbell at home, don't worry. You can use pretty much anything, okay? You can use a dumbbell. So if you only have one dumbbell, that's fine. You can grab it however you like. Again, you can be in that front rack position, okay? And nothing changes. Feet are still the same, knees are still the same, and ribs and pelvis do not change, okay? If you have two dumbbells, you can put one in each hand down here if you want, okay, and squat. If you want to put them both up into the front rack position, you can squat, all right? That is your dumbbell option. If you don't have dumbbells, but you only have kettlebells, guess what? You do the same thing. Put the kettlebell right in the front rack position, okay? You're holding it on with your hands. Again, nothing changes. Straight down, straight back up, okay? If you want to provide a little more diversity and maybe work on the front rack position and offload and get your obliques working a little bit more, you can take that kettlebell and put it in a front rack. Okay, do one arm at a time. Again, nothing changes with your squat position. If you do not have a kettlebell at home and have a sandbag, you can do the exact same thing. If you don't have any of that but happen to have a steel mace, guess what? Nothing changes. Grab that steel mace, okay? And then from there, you're just gonna squat. Nothing changes, okay? You can do all kinds of variations with your steel mace. You can keep it in front of you and squat, okay? The possibilities are endless. Get creative. So that's how you go over the back squat, front squat. If anybody, again, like I said, has any concerns or questions, or maybe wants me to analyze their squat pattern a little bit more, maybe you're not sure how to stand for your squat. There's a lot of athletes that I work with that have poor calf mobility, and a lot of times you'll see them squat really wide like that. It's okay as long as you're still maintaining the points of performance, okay? Although we probably need to work more on your calf mobility, all right? And then there's people like me who tend to squat a little narrower, okay? Because super duper wide for me doesn't feel very safe. I feel very unstable in that position, okay? So you want to be able to find a position that feels stable for you, okay? All right, guys, well, till next week, I think maybe next week we'll work on deadlifting, all right? Okay, good job today, guys, and I will see you next Wednesday.